All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the LIC podcast. I am one of your hosts, Hannah Metro, and with me I have Jose
Hi, how's it going, everybody?
and Matt.
What's up?
You're gonna get copyright infringement if you do
Oh
that kind of
shit!
stuff. You
I'm
gotta be
sorry.
careful.
Hello.
Only original content tags and things like that.
Well, disregard. Today, to continue on our journey of understanding the poetry of the flesh, we have continued on our body horror journey, and today we have watched Splice. Now, just to give it a proper intro, I just want to call out that this is not our second, but our third body horror movie, and Jose has not appreciated the other two for various reasons. So I just want to point out that we picked this movie specifically to give Jose the things that he felt were lacking in the other body horror selections. So with that being said, Jose, first impressions.
I would first like to ask, what do you believe was lacking in the other movies that this one gives? That made you guys think that it would shine a better light than the other ones.
From your feedback, from what I remember from the previous movies, The Fly and Tusk, you wanted this definitely doesn't deliver on making the main characters more likable. I don't want to pretend that, but I did hear wanting more of like a revenge story and a turnaround and potentially a character arc.
Yes, that is most certainly true. If those were the qualifiers that you guys were going for, then the latter is most certainly far more given than the former, for sure.
You say you guys, but I, for one, did not want to watch this movie.
Oh no,
no.
Oh,
no.
okay.
This is maybe the most uncomfortable movie I've ever seen. But we're on you and your first impressions to
For
start.
sure. Sorry, I don't mean to just go back to you, but is this your second time watching this movie?
I think third. I think we
Second for me.
rewatched this movie. Yeah, so
You had seen it before.
yeah,
I
I'd seen it before. I wanted to make her watch it for whatever reason, and then
Got it.
and here we are.
Why did you?
And then
do-
after
you
scarring
don't even
someone,
like-
you're like, okay, well that's enough.
Yeah. I only have to do it to one other person.
Hey,
then I
misery
feel
loves
pretty
company.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, then watch 13 Ghosts instead. At least that.
I think didn't I make you watch 13 Ghosts? Like
More than likely, I don't remember.
with Matthew Lillard and all the man, what a fun romp. That one, okay.
That one
What
was
a
that
fun
was a
romp.
fun horror romp,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, it's
Didn't
even
it have
fun
the
on
same
first...
guy who plays Shaggy? What's his actor name?
I think it's Matthew Lillard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Back to first impressions.
Yep. Back to first base. I believe I liked it. I'm not entirely really sure. Because of the fact that there were two protagonists, the onus as to who had more ethical responsibility as to what was happening kept shifting over the place. And in my personal opinion, that's really what cements my capacity for sympathy when it comes to characters who play these kind of splice master roles, right? I mean, it was just interesting because the whole aspect of her splicing her own DNA into the creature really flipped the script for me, because at first I thought this was a complete act of manipulation on the part of the creature, in the sense that it bit the lady, right? And I thought that it like released something that when she went into that like epileptic shock, or however you would want to call it,
Mhm.
like it imprinted on her hardcore.
That's a good take.
And that's where I thought the movie was initially going. If we're talking first impressions, as I was rolling through the journey that is the movie, I thought that the creature was that intelligent that it's like, no, imprint, and then the moment that it imprinted, the lady essentially went psycho for all intents and purposes. I mean, she got that like mama bear aspect to it that becomes like illogical to a degree, but endearing because they're doing it for a completely understandable reason in relation to, taking care of their young or whatever.
So this is what you thought had happened.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
I thought the entire time the creature was, have you guys watched Ex Machina before?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I thought that the creature was essentially doing what the Ex Machina android did to the man in that movie, in that there was no genuine love there. It was just a continual use of, steps, essentially.
Manipulation.
Like, I need you to feel this way about me in order for me to be able to continue growing and et cetera,
Hmm.
you know.
Mm.
And I feel that the movie got a little diluted by having her add herself in that way, like the fact that she spliced herself into it, just because of the fact that already the aspects of her, let's say, trauma written by her own mother are kind of vestigial to the story. Like they only ever really bring them up when they need them to, such as for example, oh, we need a secluded place to put this thing eventually because the laboratory is only a temporary setting, relative to the timers going off in the background of the movie.
Hmm.
Where can we do that? Oh, let's pull a farm out of our ass by
Hmm.
saying, you know what I mean, that it's a dead farm, you know what I mean, that
Hmm.
nobody goes to, and that it's, her old mother's farm and things like that.
Yeah, I think there's one throwaway line of dialogue in the first act about that, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. So you're right. Yeah.
It's
Yeah, that was kind of ham-fisted.
for sure. I feel that like they were really looking for the glues to keep the story going to the place where they wanted it to. I commend them for that. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, a story completed is better than a story not finished at all. You know what I mean? Even if
Mm.
they had to, super glue a little bit of the sections, and I can see the creases, kind of. But this
Hmm.
is, you know, most people don't stop and talk about a movie for an hour like we do. Like they just accept the situation and let it roil through them. And then if they watch it a second time or a third time, maybe that really comes up. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And
Mm.
it bothers them in that way. Like I think because of the fact that I'm already primed to look for these things that might niggle me in this way, in order for us to be able to have a solid conversation about it, it just becomes that much more obvious in that way.
Mm.
You know. Um if anything, these people really made me more sympathetic for the Fly's original protagonist, because at least his situation was a genuine accident. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't like he wasn't trying to fuck with any like genetic aspect. There was genuine teleportation and the moving of things, right? And then it became uh a biohazard issue kind of situation, you know?
So I wonder if that aspect or that outlook that you had through, I mean, most of the movie at this point, did that limit your ability to sympathize with the protagonists?
It essentially cauterized my ability to sympathize with the protagonist, because
Damn, that's what I was going for.
I thought
Just
that they
once.
were um like essentially pheromonically mesmerized by the creature to a particular degree. I thought that's until they started really editing the whole thing, like, oh, it's you kind of situation, but over there, you know what I mean, the creature. But even then, I thought that it was doing like because humans, although it can be said that there are particular smells and things like that that we could subconsciously say that we like more than others, about other people that attract us. I feel that we're more contour driven than
Hmm.
we are, smell driven situation. And I think the contour that the creature grows into, you know what I mean, really helps in that way. Like I would call it essentially like the nubile look, you know what I mean, of the slender, you know what I mean, of the slender woman like that.
Hmm.
But don't you, I mean, don't you experience some of the feelings that they're kind of showing at the beginning when the creature is an infant? Because this for me, like, I don't like the main characters at all. I don't like them, but I do empathize because when the creature is first brought to being, it's like, okay, it's a living thing now. And then it starts to kind of express discomfort, emotions, things like that. And at that point, I tend to get hooked. Like, I find myself thinking thoughts like, put a blanket on it. It might be cold, things like that.
It's tough. I mean, what things cause one to imprint upon something, you know what I mean, or consider it cute enough to want to, you know what I mean, foster it to the degree that they can, hold on to itself.
I
Because
mean,
to me,
cute or alive.
I
I
mean, to
mean, if
me,
it's a life.
I mean, but they're coming from a position of like ethical tightroping, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
they're no stranger to having to abort an organism. You know what I mean? Especially because of the fact that, I mean, they're not really playing with an organism that they know exactly what stage of life it's even in. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, is it even growing appropriately? Like, is there like what like we have no say roadmap as to what it looks like for this creature to actually have a quote unquote healthy upbringing. So we don't even know if we're doing it right, you know.
Mhm.
Um, so it's just difficult because if I want to have empathy for them, I have to be in their position as a professional scientist who is also a biosplicer in that way,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
don't think I came at it from that perspective just because that's hard for me. I think my line there and what I came into this movie with was, does it have an ability to suffer? And there is a different, a different line for people who probably perform a lot of animal testing, who have probably created a number of various different creatures at this point, even just to get to Ginger and Fred.
Oh, I bet 100%. I mean, I would imagine that they have to be far more desensitized to the process that it
Mhm.
requires to be able to just be like, this organism can't continue going on, especially considering the fact that, I mean, like, again, they're 2 feet away from, I mean, two wrong moves from like going to prison, essentially, you know what I mean, at any given time.
Just getting caught,
Yeah,
really.
just practically getting
Mhm.
caught, right? And that's why, again, I thought that the movie was far more driven by the manipulations of the creature, because in my personal opinion, that entire time, right, while they were having the lab scene, I was internally shaking my head because I felt bad in the sense that I was like, oh, this lady is like pheromonally enslaved to this creature, essentially, you know what I mean, like
Hmm.
the way that she goes so black and white. I mean, like she flipped like the switch essentially in her mind from her being like an individual who's like, I don't want any kids, like I'm not like a maternal kind of situation, like I'm just like I'm here for the science, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, you know what I mean, the moment after the creature does the stinging thing and it grows and you know what I mean
Mhm.
and whatever,
Mm.
you know what I mean, she becomes again the mama bear aspect and it overtakes her to the degree that she's crying and be like, you're hurting her, you're hurt, you know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
that the entire time I thought that she was under like some sort of like spell. You know what I mean? Like some pheromonal spell made upon by the creature as a result of its desire to obviously need an imprinted mother or a caretaker to a particular degree,
Mhm.
you know? And I thought that the reason, the biggest reason was because of the human aspect of it, right? It was like, okay, like if it has human DNA inside of it, then it has to, like a baby already, like we know, like babies cry at a particular, wavelength because they know that it'll cause people to want to take care of them, right? I mean, it's essentially subconscious manipulation to a particular degree, not to give the baby any onus of evil or anything like that. It's just what it has to do to be alive, right? And if this is a hybridization of many animals, right, all of them with the inclination to want to live, and then you sprinkle on top of that the higher cognitive capabilities of manipulation that a human just naturally has, I thought that that's what the creature was genuinely doing, like just playing these dudes for suckers. You know what I mean? And then, and then that got diluted for me by having it added the fact that, oh, it's actually her DNA, and that's why the dude's getting turned on by it. You know what I mean? And like why, like
Well, that might be one of the
I thought
reasons.
that
But
that the dude was like, have you guys played a little bit of Subnautica before,
oh, I
Yeah.
right?
played the shit out of that
Okay,
game.
cool, cool. You remember the mesmer fish?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and how like when you get close, it like starts talking to you, and it
Mhm.
like does the thing. It's like you want to get closer. You know what I mean? Like that's essentially what it looked like when they were doing the dance scene. You know, like when he was looking at her neck. You know what I mean? And she was like looking at his eyes and stuff like that. It honestly felt like she was doing like the mesmer fish thing to him. You know, and again, I think that was still that was right before, right? Like they actually had, like he actually came to the realization that, oh, you used your like
Mhm.
your DNA
That
inside.
was the moment that he realized.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. I personally thought that it would have been so much better if it would have still just been a Jane Doe situation. Like the human aspect is the thing that's causing that to happen. You
Mhm.
know what I mean?
Mm.
And then at that point, when they bang, inevitably, anyways, because I'm sure they're gonna have that sex scene no matter what. You know?
You got to
What?
get one in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when was the first moment that you were like, oh, he's gonna fuck that thing, or like,
Oh, I mean,
that's.
as the movie made it obvious, you know what I mean? Again, with the whole
The
contour situation and like
Mhm.
the light and like, like them dancing and stuff. Because before,
did
all the way
you
up until that part, I'm sorry, Hannah, just let me just to cement the thought. All the way up until that point, it really was like a child's relationship with her.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
And then and then she became sexually curious, and as a result of literally only having one other male around, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because she saw them banging too
Mm-hmm.
when she was younger.
And was highly curious. Yeah.
Did you think about it at all when Elsa found all the pictures she drew of only him?
It was interesting because I personally wasn't. I thought initially that it was only him, but then I saw that it was like different hair colors and stuff like that, and I wondered if it was just like different representations of men. You know, like
Mm.
she's just boy crazy
She's
at this
growing
point.
boy
Yeah, exactly.
crazy.
Like oh, like a brown haired boy. You know what I mean? Like
I
or like a tell.
imagine other boys might look like this.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, like you already have at least one model of it. Be like, okay, but what it would look like if he had blonde hair, or like like.
I would like that.
Mhm. That's what I thought, just because all the pictures looked so different, you know. But again, maybe that's just my first time viewing misreading of it. You know what I mean?
It's like the
Mm.
whole time the movie up until that, when you realize that she put her DNA in there, you were like, oh, this is like this fucking Ex Machina bitch is playing these two for suckers.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought it was awesome. I genuinely
Oh,
thought that the
man.
whole thing was so cool, because at that point, like the autonomy
Damn.
falls upon the creature, right? Like the creature is doing what it can to survive, and I can have a lot of sympathy for the creature in that way. You know what I mean? Like, first of all, it didn't ask to be born, right?
Right.
Yeah, and
Forced upon it.
Yeah,
Pretty rough
exactly.
childhood. Yeah.
Exactly.
Rough childhood.
Mhm. Yeah.
Similar to
If it-
Elsa's childhood, from what I gather.
If it has the
Mm.
cognitive capacities to be able to start understanding so fast that it can start playing like word games, you know what I mean? Like a week and a half after it's
Very
born,
quickly.
I'm sure it probably understood the fact that they were trying to kill it or not kill it for a long time. You know what I mean? Like that little dance probably can only traumatize you, I would imagine, if you remember the fact that your parents were like, "Oh, should we kill it? Should we just keep it?" Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
you know, like, and like actively being angry about it and stuff like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you think of that scene when she almost gets drowned, from her perspective, she doesn't know either if he was trying to kill her or if he had some bright idea.
And even we don't know yet.
Oh,
if
he
No.
was
right.
for sure
Yeah,
trying to kill her.
I
Yeah.
don't
He was
know.
like, "This is my moment. I'm
Yeah.
taking the moment."
That's exactly how
Pryor's
I read
point
it.
stands. I mean, I think we all read it that way. I think the movie tried to make us see it as that. But when I watch that, all I can think is she was already suffocating. Why would you forcefully try to drown her when she can't breathe?
quicker.
I would imagine that
What,
just
like
to-
a second quicker?
A couple.
She
well,
was
just-
not breathing.
Yeah, then it's done.
And then, I mean, that poses the other question. Is it to minimize suffering, or is it to get rid of her quicker?
I'm sure that two
Both.
things can be true at once. A lot of times.
That's a both situation.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes two things can be true at once.
Like Jose was saying, the whole beginning, and like everybody I think feels when you're, especially on the first watch, like immediately you're like, please kill that thing. Like, don't name it.
yeah.
Just put it. Just way before it turned into the cute rabbit looking thing.
And that's
Yeah.
why, again, I was under the impression that the creature was calling the shots. You know what I mean? Pheromonally through the lady. You know
I'm
what I
sure
mean?
there is some of that. I mean, if that exists at all, like dogs do that.
That exists
Dogs
with it.
evolved to move their eyebrows, to express, to relate better with humans, to survive.
Yeah, and they figured it out, man. They got it made.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
yeah,
slaves
honestly.
to them
As
now.
far as any other animal on the planet go, like nobody cares for any other
I mean, that's
animal
a
like they do
cultural
for
thing.
dogs.
No.
I mean,
Ours is
places
sleeping
Right,
on a
for
pile
sure,
of
places
yeah,
still eat
yeah.
aliens.
dogs. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? So
Yeah,
Yeah.
bastards.
So
I
I'm
mean,
sure there's
those bastards.
both, but I do also think that there can be some maternal instinct brought in just because she, even without the DNA, she did make that thing, and when it has to go through like I don't want to call it a natural birthing process, but it does have to get born
like a gestation
as an
cycle.
infant and then grow. And if you spend all your days with it and you're studying it, I don't know how you couldn't get attached.
Oh, I bet. You
Mhm.
know, I mean, just like that lady who cares for the silverback gorillas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is not only just a researcher and a scientist. I mean, she is, you know what I mean, part of the tribe of those gorillas, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's very, very difficult to completely leave your humanity at the door when doing science in that way. And but again, it's like I thought that the creature was only, again, like accentuating what's already obviously there. You know what I mean? Like this woman, you know what I mean, like has maternal instincts that I can claw out of her that I can then use to make sure that I can be taken care of in that
Oh,
way.
I mean,
You know.
with a much, I think, I guess, lower intensity of that, it's developing a lot faster. So it
Yeah.
starts thinking like a kid almost immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Even as like a child, I remember like pulling the cute card to get what I needed from my parents
Mm-hmm.
or not get in trouble, maybe.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I really think that aspect of it is very interesting. You know, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, there was just an issue of dilution in my personal opinion by having
Hmm.
to add that little tidbit of her adding herself.
Did it did it do anything for your for like the movies trying to play on your moral sensibilities? Like, did it kind of dilute that as
What's the
well?
moral question?
It's a lot of moral
Well, they're like
questions.
Yeah, like
little
which
ones
one?
here and there. Like the
Did you
okay for
find, sorry.
no,
No, no,
well,
please, yeah.
well, I was gonna say is like a lot of I don't know movies like this. It's just a showcase of scene after scene of what happens when people make the wrong decision, like over and over again in consecutive fashion as time goes on. So yeah, I don't like Hannah said. I think it's sort of a string of moral questions. Like I don't know.
Which one
Is
do
it more wrong to kill it after it looks like the cute bunny thing and wants to eat? Or is it more wrong to yeah, I mean like at one point does it
I think
become
that at the end of the day, you kind of already have begun with the original sin of creating this thing without knowing what the fuck it's even gonna, you know what I mean? Like, for all you know, literally every moment of his existence could be in pain. You know what I mean? Because
mm,
of the fact that, like,
Yeah.
it doesn't, like, it's just not, like, appropriately, like, like, connect, like, the splice isn't working properly.
Doesn't
Like,
have
maybe they
years
could
and
tell that on
years.
the lab, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But at the same time, maybe it doesn't have a receptor or a means to be able to tell you all the ways that it's in pain. You know what I mean? I'm sure that, like, the yeah, like, just for example, the whole aspect of it almost dying from like half drowning essentially for
Mhm.
being an amphibious creature, right? It's like it's entirely a serendipitous situation that they decided to put it in water in that way in order for them to be able to figure that out. You know, and then even then we still suss it in that way because, like, did they figure it out, or was it luck for the creature that it actually is an amphibious creature in that way, you know?
yeah, the
So
one yeah.
so it's like, so I mean, like, I think that, I mean, you really have, like, left morality far behind, you know what I mean? So it's just like at this point,
Yeah.
yeah.
What did he say? We changed the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah,
Now it's
honestly.
just the best
Now
decision you've
it's
got.
genuine orange and blue morality, you know? It's just whatever. Which one's the right one? You know?
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, like,
It's
because
more
fuck.
like pink and red morality, I think, at that point.
Because it's like, what the fuck? Like, you can't, like, the thing wants autonomy, you know? Like, the creature wants autonomy so bad, and it tells you that it's tedious, and it's like, listen, like, the clock's running out, and how long before I fucking use this tail to, like, strangle you, essentially,
Mm.
you know?
I liked how that forest creature tasted, and I'm gonna get some more of it.
Hmm. Yeah, fuck, it's difficult, you know? I mean, I'm sure that, and I don't even want to really get too deep into it because it just feels like the lazier parallel in the movie in terms of, like, connecting all of this the obvious parallels to Parenthood, you know what I mean, and all of those scenes that they went through in relation to, like, feeding like the bunny, the bunny morph aspect of it, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, and him getting all irritated and her, you know what I mean, like, taking this taking the side of the creature, you know what I mean,
Mm.
far more in that way, and and then, like, having to jury rig the ability to feed it by being like, oh, it likes sweets, so I guess I'll sprinkle sweets in the food so that way it can actually bother to eat, so it doesn't just commit SIDS on us, you know what I mean, like, so
Commit sins.
yeah, you didn't feed me right, fuck you.
It's you make it sound as if sins is this voluntary thing that
we Honestly, as far as I understand, and maybe you guys can give me a documentary, you in the chat, anyone in the chat, or anyone who's listening,
Oh my
drop it in the comment section. I've never seen anything that tells me that SIDS is anything except the mysterious thing that every once in a while just happens to infants.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, I have, yeah, please educate me if you can. But as far as I understand, it might as well be they check out of the MMO before they actually want to continue playing. You know, like honestly,
Even
like
just in the name.
give me a better reason,
I
No one can. That's the
Mhm.
thing. It's
Mhm.
literally named SIDS
Yeah.
for sudden infant death syndrome.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll give it
So
to you. Yeah.
it's like again, this thing has a multitude of animals, right? So and I can only imagine that SIDS is a thing that possibly happens to many animals, just in the being like,
I'm
if I'm
sure.
the last of the litter, fuck that. I'm not going to be struggling so hard for nothing. You
Oh,
know,
Yeah.
if not able, you know what I mean?
sad.
Click, you know,
Yeah.
or you know, or who knows? I mean, like again, like the innocence and petulancy of an infant, right? Can't ever really let you glean as to what it thinks it's so important enough to even want to continue living for. You know, like the capacity of not having something that it actually wants to eat, you know what I mean? Considering that it's only been quote unquote, you know, alive outside of its mother's, you know, outside of its mother and independent as a whole for, you know, X amount of days, X amount of weeks. You know what I mean? It's like,
In such a fragile state.
mm-hmm.
Because will definitely, I mean, has a huge impact on life. Just like really old couples tend to die in similar time frames after a spouse dies. The other one usually follows not too far after.
Yeah, there's like I think that there's like an old and it has to be old timey because I don't think they let people do this kind of shit anymore. But like when they took those infants and like they put them in a situation where like people wouldn't talk to them, you know what I mean? Like
No.
they were trying to see how much like speaking and facial expressions
Mm.
affected like a child's ability to be able to continue like growth essentially in its brain.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean like the ones that didn't do it even for that short period, even for that short little period of time, apparently it affected them, you know what I mean, enough that like there was I think a marginal like a big enough, you know, margin between when you didn't do it to the baby at all
Mm.
and when you actually did it, you know what I mean,
There's like
got the
a
control and whatever.
no, there's a severe anecdotal case of what you're talking about that is like this basically true crime story about some I think it was a girl that they found 13 or 14 whose parents basically locked her up her whole life, never talked to her, did anything like, you know, abuse the shit out of this person. And when she was finally found, she had like the mentality of like a 5 or 6 year old and wasn't able to speak, but could like point and so like semi communicate. And that
Right.
was it. Like, but yeah. And then I think like the government took her away and like basically put her in a care facility.
Well, I mean that's such a special case, isn't it? I
Yeah.
mean like
I mean, it's
as
extremely anecdotal for sure,
well,
but
and not only that, but I mean like as traumatizing as it is for that subjective individual, and my heart goes out to whoever the fuck that happened to.
mm,
You know, I mean, in terms of in terms of like scientific and like anthropological research, like that's a gold mine essentially, because you can't ever genuinely do that to a kid. You know what I mean? Without going to fucking prison for it, and then you won't get your Nobel Prize for that. You
right.
know, you know.
Right, like this lady
Yeah.
who, for some reason, slipped through the cracks at the end of the movie, right? Like,
So, do you think that maybe
Maybe-
effect kind of had a part to play in the way that Dren developed? Because really she was limited to two people to observe and to understand
or
communication
like
sort
the
of.
human part of her,
Yeah,
right?
because I mean people interact in a great variety.
Mhm. Yeah, fuck, it's really difficult, especially when you also add in the fact that, let's say, the initial stages of her life were of a far more prey-like nature, right? Like the
Mm,
eyes were more to
yeah,
the side, you
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
hey,
You
good point,
mentioned, yeah, we and
because we've been calling her the rabbit.
when we took an intermission right in the middle, Jose and I were talking about. Jose had mentioned like that her eyes were really far apart, and we were discussing how that was like sort of prey like to have eyes on the side of your head. And as she got older, you could see, and especially when she like turned into the male version,
They came in much
Yep,
closer.
and she was looking
She looked
forward
like a
like,
cat almost at the end of that one.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, because she
he looked
also,
like a cat at that point.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and like as a baby, they were completely on the sides of her head, and her initial interaction with everything, her initial reaction was to flee.
Mhm.
Yeah, and just do that screeching thing,
Yeah.
Mhm.
like most things, that can't like really defend themselves do, just chitter and be like, "Ah, I'm annoying. Get
Mhm.
away." You know?
Yeah, that's it. Because there's also this line of dialogue about how she is sort of like a fetus developing outside the womb.
Mhm.
And that's sort of like almost like it's pretty analogous to what a fetus looks like in its development until it starts to resemble a
Yeah,
human.
like vestigial arms
Hmm.
until it actually starts growing like the full,
Yeah. Little tail, little
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So again, oh, well, the reason I was bringing that up, the prey aspects of it conjoined with the human like understanding and learning capacity. You know what I mean? Probably makes it so it's like, okay, I need to learn how to like communicate and like let people know what the fuck I need right away. It's like it like behooves that type of creature, you know what I mean, to try to be as communicative as possible, especially if at that point it still doesn't have its defensive capabilities like having the stinger and stuff like that.
Mm.
Because I believe that it wasn't until it looked like an alien child, alien girl looking one, right, that it's like that she began to develop the stinger. Because when she was a little rabbit, it still wasn't
No,
there.
even
No, it
as the
had the
little
stinger
tadpole, it
then.
had the stinger.
Oh, it did, didn't it?
Yeah, when you
Yeah.
were like, "Is this the precursor to Alien?"
Yeah.
Well, kind of. Yeah.
Oh, it's true. Yeah, that's right. That's how it used the whole what I first thought was the imprinting
Mm-hmm.
sequence on the lady.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. Okay. Well, even then, right? I mean, even just having one means of being able to defend yourself is just like, you know, it's just one claw essentially.
Yeah, little poker.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I mean there definitely is some credit to be given to the argument that she's a super manipulative being just because when she killed the cat, that like just doesn't add up with me because she seemed to really like the cat.
Hmm. I think it was just honestly the juvenile petulancy showing
Oh,
showing full.
teenager rage.
Yeah, exactly. Of being like you're trying to make things better on your terms, like we were talking about,
Yeah, by putting the cat in the
even as we were
box like a
doing, right? It's like
present.
you're trying to make things better on your terms, and you're trying to give me back something you took away from me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And now thinking that I am good enough for it, fuck you. And then
Mm.
and obviously, I'm sure that if time had gone by, I'm sure she would have probably felt bad about the concept of having killed the cat. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, because it was also like a show of force, right? Because like that's when she swung down from the rafters and landed superhero style in the
Yeah,
barn.
isn't that when she went up to the roof and first did the whole open her wings
That was a little
situation?
bit prior.
Okay.
A little bit prior,
Mm.
yeah.
All right.
But yeah, when she, because there was this weird,
Oh, because she just took the key from her, right?
Mhm.
And
mhm.
then did the "Wah,
But she's been crying about the cat
God
for
damn it.
hours.
Yeah, well, and then Adrian Brody came in and danced with her, and then he left, and she got all pissed off. And I think it was in the same period of time that Dren realized that she's like way stronger than everybody, and like I don't have to listen to these people's shit. I could just
Mhm.
do what I want.
Yeah.
Watch me kill this cat. You know.
Yep. And then she slipped into an Oedipal complex, essentially,
Mhm.
where she genuinely felt like she had to kill her mother or get her out of the way in order to be able to usurp her place and sleep with her father, in the most literal sense, because sometimes everybody uses that kind of Oedipal situation in a thematic way, but they're like, nope, not this time.
Mhm.
You know, if I this is maybe the most disgusting aspect of the like did you I on a scale of 1 to 7,
Mhm.
how would you rate how disturbing that pair of scenes was with the
The two sex
yeah,
scenes.
the two sex
I
scenes.
didn't find them that disturbing, really, especially
No?
because no, I mean, like
God damn it.
the actress that plays the creature, you know what I mean, like
Mm.
is a pretty woman. You know what I mean? They make the creature have again the contour, you know what I mean, of a pretty woman. And while it was happening, I honestly was even more under the impression that she was like, really mesmerizing the guy to like, like have sex with him at that point. Like,
Mhm.
because like she was forceful on him, you know what I mean? And like the moment they got close, like he was unable to get away essentially.
That was another manipulation. That's a good point though, is because she was forceful on him.
Hmm.
Like she was like naked and she was like spreading her wings out and then she threw herself on him.
And then
And when
and
he
then
pushed her away, she
wrapped her
covered
tail.
herself.
Not only that, but she wrapped her tail around that rafter situation to keep him from even being able to go anywhere, you
Mhm.
I
know?
didn't notice that.
Hmm.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, she like lifted her leg and then put it and then like
Oh, you
and then
mean when she
sh-
like pinned him. But
yeah.
mhm.
before that, she played victim when he pushed her away hard.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, it's there's a lot of pseudo incestual, you know what I mean, connotations to it. And I thought
Mm.
that if anything, that was probably the grossest aspect, thinking trying to do like the incestual calculus as to who's more gross in this situation,
Mhm.
you know? But at the same time, it's difficult because it's not like as though that's his daughter, because that's a pretty much a part clone of his partner,
Mhm.
and it's like if anything, he's more cheating on her with herself, with like not to like excuse him or anything like that, but like I'm just saying like that's one of the reasons why I made him like an easy mark, I would feel,
Mhm.
like,
Better or worse than the one I love cheating?
oh no, that guy
I mean,
deserves
they
to be
didn't even
stuck in
know.
a bubble dimension for sure. I mean, and again, I'm still hoping that she, turns on his ass right at the, any moment now.
I got my green card. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Yep, I got my renewed passport. I'm good. Later, fucker.
God.
No, no. I mean, like I give biological sympathy in the sense that I don't know how much the creature was playing with their mind.
Mhm.
You know, if there's sympathy to be given to the protagonist, it's that. You know, um, the empathetic aspect of it never really clicks for me because again, these are professional scientists, and they're pretty much just like playing, playing around like school children, essentially,
Yeah.
and you actually brought up a very interesting point in the sense that for all we know and understand, that lady might be going at the beginning of the movie, right, when she was all gung ho with absolutely no fucking care about oversight or anything of the such, if she really was going through like a manic high, I mean, in relation to whatever, you know, um psychological issue that they imply her family has a lineage or history to, you know.
Yeah, that's pretty strongly stated by uh Adrian Brody's character at one point,
Hmm.
right?
So yeah, being driven by that, and your desire to be like, well, and also with such a carte blanche moral implication of being like, I'm doing this for the betterment of mankind. You know what I mean? Think of all the Parkinson's will stop, like,
Look at my trump card.
yeah, exactly. Like, oh yeah, you can't.
Sit the fuck down.
Honestly, like it's so perfect to deviate, you know what I mean, your ethical or moral compass in that way, because at the end of the day, you can always excuse micro immorality for the sake of a macro morality in that way. And they were going for the big show, in relation to macro morality. Be like, we're trying to keep this so nobody gets sick anymore. So it's like, so what's a little cut corner here and there amongst friends,
But they
So it's like,
completely lost sight of it. Is there
of
was nothing
course.
else done about it as she grew up. They were prepared to watch her live and die.
Of course,
Mhm.
yeah. With the supposed, with again the only supposed like veil of indemnity being the fact that supposedly she was gonna die soon, right? Like
Mm.
it wasn't gonna be like a years upon years long thing. Like she'll become old very, very quickly. But then at the same time, I mean, we don't know what kind of creature she is, right? I mean, like she could
Yeah.
have that whole polyp thing like jellyfish do, where like they can reverse age and like become
Mhm.
the little rabbit again and then like regrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like we have
Or
no idea what her capabilities are. We really, really don't.
yeah.
And I mean, like I think it's senescence of a. of a human is about
Mhm.
on average 70 for a male, 80 for a female
Mhm.
nowadays, right?
Yeah.
So it's like even if you cut that in half, right? Even if you cut that by a quarter, and then give it all of the extra capabilities of the other animals that it could have been spliced with, like that thing's ripping and roaring for a long time.
Like, you were making jokes about it, but I sincerely, one of the biggest letdowns is that this is not the prequel for Mothman or the Swamp Creature, or like, because it's
Honestly.
perfect. It's such a
Oh,
good
for sure. It's like
origin story for.
for all of those things. Like
Yes, it could have been all of them.
if anything, if they would have just gone psycho crazy at the end, they could have had it where like the male, like they actually could have done the whole tie-in all the way through. Oh, it breaks my heart that I wasn't in the screenwriter's room as just pounding the desk as we were like, listen, we can tie it all back. She made the joke about the fact about male pregnancy, right? About the
Oh
fact that
yeah,
like, well, once we figure that out, we'll talk about having children.
yeah.
And because Ren took his seed first, let's say, right? And then became a male, let's say that just like a seahorse, the male physiology is the one that has, like, let's say the wide enough hips or whatever the fuck, what I mean, in their way of being, what I
Yeah.
mean, to actually, it would have been great if like the creature died, but then like three more like just and like
Oh
ran
my
into the
god.
woods, yeah, like they just scurried away into the woods.
So do you think? So this is like because they foreshadow it
Or
just a
became
little
a
bit.
fish, or like
Oh yeah.
or like like it, whatever its child became, like also did like a crazy like bio change in relation to like
Mm,
its morphology, what I mean, like, oh, like we're inside of water right now, or like we're more amphibious than anything, maybe we should be more fish like, what I mean, like more
mm,
alligator like, maybe in relation to like moving and stuff like that. Who knows?
mm-hmm.
Just fun thing like that. Because
Yeah.
like, you're right. I mean, and when I was saying, and like, yep, creature of the Black Lagoon, yeah, Mothman prophecy. The thing looks exactly like it.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm.
100%.
Prometheus put that thing on a spaceship and send it off
Mm-hmm.
into space. Oh my gosh.
Not unless you want to deal with it again in 100 years.
So yeah. So I'm curious
Would you
because.
guys have killed the creature?
Oh yeah, that's the thing. When it's a Blasticell, pretty easy decision.
I'd have killed the creature as soon as able to. I think I'd have killed it before it was a creature. Where I recognize myself as weak is once it's an existing thing and it needs to eat and stuff. I'm a wild card after that. I don't know. Like I
Keep you away
might
from
get
its stinger. It might
motherly.
imprint on you real quick. Be like, oh, which one's the easiest mark in the room? Ah,
Yeah,
feed
that's
me.
me.
Feed me.
And feel good about it.
Feed me and feel good about it. Yeah, I just knowing myself, I get stressed during the part where they're like about to birth it because I'm like, you have to kill it before that. You're gonna name it. You're gonna like it. It's gonna be a big problem.
Yep.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, they did try, right? I mean, like the creature, they put it inside that box, and then they thought it died, and then it burst open again to reveal the rabbit version,
Mm.
right? Because
Well, I don't think they ever intentionally tried to kill it, except for that one time in the tub. But yeah.
If
so
that was.
so do you think in this? Okay, so there's the whole part where Dren changes into the male version of its unique species or whatever. And then you had mentioned earlier about like having taken the male seed first, and and then so like I'm curious, do you, because they were sort of interrupted in that scene, you know.
I thought he orgasmed.
Oh
I genuinely thought he did.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. I thought that he had orgasmed, and like after he had gotten the post orgasm clarity, I would imagine is when he looked to the side and noticed the fact that the lady was standing there.
Hannah,
Because
are
it
you
looked like she
familiar?
had been standing there for a hot little minute. You know what I mean? Like it didn't look like it didn't look like she like walked in and then like stopped mid tracks. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like it looked like she was genuinely stunned standing there for, I'd say, maybe a whole minute. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like
my god.
like I would imagine
Ugh.
that like your brain probably just really needs to like take it in to like accept the fact that what you're seeing isn't an illusion. you're not fucking going insane by thinking that you're seeing this. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And then letting all the anger, rage, frustration, confusion. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
All
I give it about a minute. Yeah.
Also, how do you look away?
Yeah, honestly.
Oh my god. No.
How do you not make an audible
No.
sound when you walk into that scene?
Another
Mm.
thing. Oh, well, you know, another thing that I'll mention that I'll want to tie back to what I was talking about before about like the things that make others want to take care of things. I fucking hated this creature's chittering the entire movie. Like,
Bad move if Jose is supposed to be.
yeah, I
If
was like,
Mama Jose's in
holy
the
fucking
picture.
shit, yeah. I was like, holy fucking shit, I can't stand this thing's chittering. Like, even when it became like, like the Ren version, let's say, the more imperfect cell looking version, that you know, the fact that she still had to talk, like that and stuff like that. Oh, it was just too much for my ear, you know. And here's the question that I have for you guys: do you guys think that like the creature imprinted upon both of them to a degree, and like it caused it so only they could hear its like high frequency chittering? Because if you consider when he was standing there with his brother,
Mhm.
and they were talking, and then he hears it through the vents,
Mhm.
right? You'd imagine that if he can hear it, other people can hear it. And it's like, okay, what the fuck? Like everybody, I mean, if I heard chittering that there was not supposed to be chittering in a, what I mean, in
Mhm.
a professional place like a lab and shit like that, like I would have to wonder what the fuck,
Lab,
especially if.
especially.
Mhm.
My like lazy movie brain pieced it together as Adrian Brody knew to listen for that kind of sound, whereas if his brother heard that kind of sound, it might just sound like weird AC noises.
I guess.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because he wouldn't automatically make the connection. Oh, that's a fucking
That's
creature.
a
Yeah,
live
yeah,
thing of some kind.
that's a live
That's
Well,
abomination
here.
somewhere in the
I,
in the closet.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to assume it's a relatively big building too. Like, my first assumption would be that there's like a critter in the vents or something.
Mhm.
Got it.
Not to
Well,
go check the
well, for the
basement.
sake of coolness, I like to believe that the creature imprinted psychologically in like his brain and like made it so only he could hear the chittering to a degree.
Well, that's way cooler, I think, than.
You're welcome, Splice.
When you remake it, take
Yeah.
Jose's notes.
Splice 2.
Splice 2. No, we don't need another. We really
Extra
don't.
splicey.
No,
This
we don't
is-
get another because they killed the Splice.
No, but the
Yeah.
baby that's inside of her, we don't know
Oh
what it
yeah,
is.
that could
We
be
deserve to know
Splice
about
too.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
There should be. You
Also-
can't tease something like that.
And that's like
Yeah.
a full. What is that alien? Where like the birthing or like somebody births like is it a woman like a but that's like a man or like where it pops out of the like out
John
of the-
Hurt.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like I guess yeah like the fly right like that like in the scene in the dream sequence scene in the
Mm.
fly where she has the
Oh,
giant maggot
the
essentially.
demon, yeah, Megan thing. Yeah.
Mhm. Like I'd have to wonder what is going to come out of her, I mean, canal and like
Canal.
and it's like, is it gonna come out tail first? You know what I mean? Like with a little
It's a medical term.
Well, probably what she's thinking is like, I raised this thing without having any problems.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, okay, not no problems, but like, like.
Expand.
I don't know
Well, I
why
was
people
only
are
down one
complaining.
husband. I mean, I can get another one.
No,
for the-
just
This
let me-
child rearing thing is
Yeah.
easy.
Like, it didn't. What I'm saying is she was able to raise it, and this is gonna have more human DNA.
Mm.
So it would be more human than what
So it
she
could even be
brought
more
up.
psychopathic. For all we fucking know. Who knows? I mean, because you'd imagine that, like, okay, like humans, right, are such social creatures that we really need much more than just what our parents can ever provide, right? Both in relation to like the societal structure and just the communicative structure. You need to be able to speak to more people than just your parents.
Yep.
And they can't ever provide that for, what I mean, that creature aside from perhaps the lab that it'll live in for the rest of its days. you know?
However many those may be.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, you have to consider that they're probably, for the most part, only going to come in from, say, a clinical perspective with the, like, can you tell me how many blocks there are here? Like,
Mm,
like that kind of situation, as opposed to like the organic aspect of being like, oh, like if you have a kid, like it'll just be running around, you know what I mean? And like sometimes it'll make something that'll make you angry, but I'll laugh, you know what I mean? And the kid's just gonna get, like just the organic aspects, you know what I mean? That in
yeah,
culture,
because
a creature in
everybody
that
that
way.
interacts with that creature is going to be on the clock. So it's
Exactly.
going to be
Hmm.
professionalism. They might interact with it, like they might be, exposing it to humor and trying to expose it to, you know, organic situations, but it's never going to be an actual organic situation. No one's going to hit it or anything like that.
What are your thoughts, Winry? Matt left, and the dog is now just taking the spot perfectly.
Yeah,
But she's a good listener, so she'll just continue listening to our opinion.
she's a great listener.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah,
entranced.
because I mean, listen, all I can think of at that point is that Splice too splicey actually might be
Too
not that bad of a
spicy.
not bad of a movie, because if you follow the life of that kid, it's gonna have a very difficult and terrible. It's gonna have a harrowing life, and if he, she, or it is gonna be the protagonist, I think that I would have a lot more empathy and sympathy for that creature, because again, it didn't choose to be born, you know,
Once
and
again.
yeah, and it is being used, you know what I mean, as an object for, again, the macro morality of being like, we're gonna take DNA out of you to be able to find these enzymes so we can start, helping people and whatever.
I'd be
And
really
that's how we go to bed
interested.
every night.
Honestly, I'd be really interested to see what's in that.
She won't move.
I'd be really interested to see what's in that contract because I think that the reason Elsa's having that baby is, I mean, the money's probably some level of it, but I think the reason she's having that baby is because she loved Dren and she's mourning the loss and she wants another Dren. So I think she's probably proceeding with the baby for that. And I'd be curious what's in those contract terms and what like level of, you know, what level she gets to be involved to with the new baby.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how one's maternality, I mean, can remain unflinched after having been a rape victim. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah, but she's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
She,
yep.
she's
And
got
that's
the
the hot
crazy
take.
gene.
Yeah, for sure.
Just riddled with trauma already. Just throw it onto the pile. It's going to make her probably more maternal potentially.
I also wonder if if she like, well, I guess not, right? Because they kept I mean, we even made the joke at the end. We're like, again, you could not have this baby if you didn't want to, you know. Oh.
She's like, no.
I mean,
I'm
look out like
doing
Lex
it.
Luthor out into the city as I'm about to unleash whatever the fuck comes out of me.
What do you- Never stick your stinger tentacle into crazy, I think is how the
Mhm.
saying goes.
Is that
Are
how
you
it
giving
goes?
advice to the creature?
To the world,
Oh,
I
if
think
you happen to have a stinger. Okay, yeah, because we didn't get a dong shot. I know Jose was upset.
I thought that we did, and I thought that its dong was like ginormous. You know, what I mean, that's why I wanted
Oh.
to go back, because I was confused as
Mm.
to whether it was its tail and it was just like near,
Mm.
the area, like the hip area, or if it really was just like a knee, like like a knee slapper kind of situation.
Anise.
Is it weird that I have to assume that it wasn't that large just because Elsa wasn't really reacting during the rape?
How,
She was just staring at him. There was no like pain wincing or anything like that. If it was
Oh,
huge,
I get what you're saying. You think it might have just been the tail itself?
I don't think so because it was thrusting.
Right, but it can thrust its tail. I'm wondering if it has like a genuine penis, or if it's like flat there.
Oh, like maybe it's
You know what I
like
mean? And
pulls the
then,
stinger
because
in and
then,
uses the
yeah,
tail.
because it can, if it wants to ejaculate, I would imagine that it already has a tail that has the capacity to eject. You know what I mean? So, again, we don't know the life cycle of this creature, right? So we don't know what's the right way for it to exist in any particular type of way. So
Yeah, but if the tail moves, I mean, we've seen a lot of movements of that tail. It moves very much on its own. I wouldn't imagine it has to be thrusting to use the tail, and the positioning looked very much.
Little hip action.
It
Never
looked
hurt.
like
didn't
hip action to
didn't
me.
I mean didn't like
Did you say
he like
never
take
hurts?
he didn't like the didn't the creature take out the like the stinger and like rip her pants off? Like didn't he
Yeah,
use the stinger to rip her pants off?
he
Or
did use the
down,
stinger
yeah.
to pull clothes for sure.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you ever see The Evil Dead, Jose?
No.
Oh, okay.
It was very reminiscent of the tree rape in Evil Dead
Yeah, in The Evil Dead, a tree rapes a woman in a similar fashion.
Oh damn.
with
How
vines.
how can a tree do that?
Vines.
Yeah, it's possessed by a demon or something.
Oh, okay. Got it. I was like, yeah, like the thrusting aspect. I was like, how the fucking I was like
It's
I
like
was
the plant
it's
from
like, is
Family
it
Guy.
yeah, is it like in
Family Guy plant.
yeah, like is it in cahoots with the wind and it's like shaking the tree? Like
In cahoots.
I'm crying.
I mean, already there's evil demons, right? So I mean, why not just extrapolate the fact that there's wind gods that like to watch wood rape? Like, who the fuck knows, right?
You are thinking exactly the way the writers of the Evil Dead movies thought.
Well, there you go.
And
But
that's
is that a compliment?
Yeah.
Is the other question.
hey, they made money. And
Yeah.
they're called classics.
Yeah, they made money in not the way that they had intended to initially, but
Well,
they
not
did
the first
own it
one.
after.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, yeah. How'd you like my comedy? You know?
Exactly. After everyone started
Yeah.
laughing at it, they
Yeah.
were like, "Yeah, you get it."
My comedy.
Isn't this like the second act of Hot Rod too? Is
What?
that exactly what happens?
I think so, yeah.
When he shows him his first video?
Is it?
Listen, you just opportunity hardly ever knocks on anyone's door, and if it knocks a little funny, you answer it anyway. All right. Yeah, I mean, once you have the money, you can try to make a more serious piece later. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So it's like, yeah.
Hire better actors.
Yeah.
It's all
Hire a
about
better
budget.
writer. Maybe stay home.
Executive producer.
Yeah.
And we're on our
Yeah,
way.
exactly. Listen, we can call you director and executive producer if you want. We really don't care. All right. You get paid all the same. Oh man.
So, out of the two main protagonists, which one do you feel like you connected with better?
What was the name of the guy?
Clive.
Clive. I think him, just because of the fact that the lady got overtaken by the creature too soon. You know.
Well, one could
Again-
argue that she was overtaken before it was even created, because she was the one.
Yes, she was. Yep, she was possessed by
Playfully.
the idea of the
Mhm.
creature. I mean, or of the endeavor, really. Like even before the, anything really began. So because of that, I mean, like, she really was, who tempted with the forbidden fruit in that way. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And moved it along, and he was completely willing to, go along with it to the degree in the way that I probably hate the most. You know what I mean? In terms of like just general character of being like, I don't know about this, you know what I mean, but never doing anything to stop it.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know, I was like, I'm only half here. You know, like
Mhm.
I mean, he
Oh,
did try
God,
to gas
yeah.
it, and she took her mask off. Like, she made his position incredibly difficult, and I think he became more docile over time.
for sure. And
Mhm.
during that entire interim, I still was thinking, this creature's playing him like a fiddle. You know what I mean? He's got the lady on her side already. You know what I mean? And it's like,
true.
and you don't even need to imprint on the guy because the lady will keep him in check. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because she also locked him out of the room when she incubated the creature in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting that it is quite the parallel to a lot of the ways that other creatures essentially have to deal with life, right? Like for example, male bears and female bears. Like
Mhm.
a male bear has the tendency to want to kill its cubs or the cubs of others sometimes, and
Yeah.
lions too, and stuff like that. you know, just for no fucking reason.
I
Sometimes,
don't need more competition in 5 years.
yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I know how mad how big and bad I am. Like, oh, well, I don't want to wait for that. You know, yeah, and and always the mother has to step in, and that's why I believe for the most part bears are solitary creatures, aside from when they are cub and mother kind of
Mhm.
situation. Because other than that, you have to be like out on your own unless you're foraging or or
Mhm.
like it's that salmon time of year where you're like, okay, there's enough that we can surplus it out. You know what I mean? That where nobody has to fight each other for, you
Right.
know what I mean? Like this.
Polar bears literally track each other for miles to mate, and then the male protects the female for long enough for her to have his cubs and no one else's cubs, and then they separate again.
Mhm.
Yeah, because again, I believe that even then, polar bear male is still conducive to a potential blind rage. I'm gonna call it. You know what I mean? That could lead it to wanting to kill the cub, or
Mhm.
potentially just not have lack tact. Even you know what I mean? Because sometimes accidents in play can happen. You know what I mean? To the degree that you, as the male bear, don't know how to properly play with this cub, and you like slap it too hard, and you fucking break its neck. You know,
Mm.
and you didn't mean to. You know what I mean? But it's just one of if it happens four out of the if it happens to one out of the four cubs we had, you know what I mean? It's still pretty bad. You know what I mean? It's still, you know,
There we go. Male bears just get into a fit of aggressive play. They have a tendency to kill their cubs.
aside from just perhaps just the bloodlust, who the fuck knows what drives things, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And
I know even rabbits eat their young sometimes, and it's just like they start with cleaning them and they just end up eating them.
Whoops.
gerbils,
Oops.
hamsters.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
all of the things this thing was initially, essentially, or all of the characterizations that it had in terms of its physiology, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It was of the type to either get, you know what I mean, killed or, you know what I mean, or heavy imprint right away, you know what I mean? Like, no, you
Mhm.
like me, you
You
know?
like
Yeah.
me? You want me to stay
Yeah,
alive?
exactly. Look at me.
So, my other question for you, because this is one movie that I kicked myself a little bit afterwards. Did you notice any of the aggressive foreshadowing before? Like, were you able to predict things in the movie with how obviously they foreshadow things? Because I wasn't my first watch through.
Such as what? What do you mean? Like what
Well,
scene in the movie's future did you believe was the foreshadowing thing that they were foreshadowing towards?
two most notable things is Ginger turning into a male.
Okay. Did not see
Um,
that coming, to be perfectly honest.
yeah, and that happened with the other creature as well. Same DNA, so I felt like that was an incredibly obvious example of foreshadowing. And then the pictures, the fact that the Dren was drawing pictures the of Elsa right before they went out to find her. They found that in the meantime she'd been drawing pictures of Elsa when like right before when she drew pictures of Clive, she like fucked him shortly after.
I wonder how long. Okay, that second one kind of. I don't know if the timeline really fits because how long was it from them having sex to the aspect of her dying, of them going back and like seeing the tank and seeing the
Mhm.
fact that she's dead? You know what I mean? Like, do you think that? Are you saying that she drew those pictures during that interim of time that they
Right
like
before
left?
they showed up to find her,
Okay. So
like
Hmm.
she was
dying,
already
I
be,
think.
and you're saying that she was already beginning her transition to the malehood aspect, where like her interests now lay on Elsa in
Yeah,
that
I think
way.
she was beginning to fantasize there because when she started drawing pictures of Clive, it was because she had an interest and she didn't draw
But that's
any
not
pictures of
foreshadowing though,
Elsa.
right? Because I mean, we see those pictures after the creatures. No, no, no.
We
I,
don't know she's
it,
flipping to a male yet.
that's right. That's right. It's after
Yeah.
they've just buried the creature that they see that, right? And like they are burning everything
Yeah, and
when the
that's
guy
why I
comes.
felt so
That's a good
stupid
point.
is because in my first time watching when I saw those pictures, I kind of went, "Aw, she does like her."
That's how I took it too. To be perfectly honest, I did not see. Yeah, because that's a high high speed like neck snapping U-turn essentially in terms of like foreshadowing. If you want to say like, oh, we're gonna take a quick twist this way, you know what I mean? Because like they show the picture and then literally what 3 4 minutes later, you know what I mean? It it reappears as a he at this point,
Mm.
So it's like I don't feel like that there was enough time for it to simmer enough to say that that was a foreshadow per se, just
But
because
don't you think,
the shadow is small, you know what I mean?
Well,
Like
the original foreshadow is much stronger. Where
well,
the
with
one with
Ginger, and
yeah,
then they
that one
kind of are the
that one
same
is good. That one for
foreshadowing.
sure was really really good.
yeah.
The whole from hermaphroditic aspect of it, like
Mhm.
most certainly was an open thing. You know what I mean? But the that second foreshadow that you bring up, yeah, really did completely not. Yeah, it didn't register in that way because it's like a sub foreshadow almost, right? It's like the big
Mm.
foreshadow is the hermaphroditic aspect of it, and then the sub foreshadow, and like you said, is like, oh, now who wants Elsa? You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
Hermaphroditic and violent.
yeah, or just male, really. I mean, it's just
Put some testosterone in there and we got
yeah,
problems.
The
boom.
number one, yeah,
Yeah, the number one
predictor
indicator
for
being
violence is
is
maleness.
maleness. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna have to cut that at the root. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, that brings up another
because
interesting
how many
question.
testes did that thing have inside of it? You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
we don't
We don't know. We
know.
don't know.
Yeah, we don't know exactly how. Like, it could be like a Krogan situation. I know you guys never played Mass Effect, but those things have like 4 testicles inside of themselves. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like you never, yeah, like you don't know what this thing's got going on. And if it's
So
amphibious, I know that fucking frogs, you know what I mean, mate like a motherfucker. Like they lay broods.
Mm. I did not know that.
No,
How many nature documentaries have
oh,
you
a ton,
seen?
man. And when I was a little
Jesus
kid,
Christ.
when I was a little kid in Honduras, the cable that was available only gave Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and the Discovery Kids.
Oh.
And there was a lot of cartoons in English in Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon that I really couldn't watch because they weren't, I couldn't understand them. I liked watching them, but I couldn't understand them.
Mhm.
But they always had cool documentaries and stuff like that in Discovery Kids that were always in Spanish. And so I just watch that all the time.
Nice.
So I do think that triggers like
Expert.
one more interesting question that I really want to ask is, that being said, like with that joke about, the number one factor in violence is maleness.
Mhm.
If
That's not a
Not a
joke. That's
joke.
a fact.
Yeah.
no, for sure. I agree, but
But it is, yeah, it was funny.
Yeah.
it was
It's
funny.
it's dark universal humor, I feel. And
Yeah. But that being said, if Dren had been born a male, how do you think this would have played out? Like with the, I think that would have made me perceive more of the danger up front.
but see, that's therein lies the manipulation of the creature, right? You have to
Mm.
consider the fact that the creature probably, not consciously, but unconsciously through its genetic makeup, feels the fact that it's going to be highly more defenseless at the first stages of its life. So it needs to be able to have all of the things, either pheromonal, contoural, what I mean, whatever the fuck it can, all of the tactics it can use to make sure that other things don't want to kill it, eat it, you know what I mean,
Mhm.
or whatever. And as you said, I mean, like the female is just probably like the better choice, what I mean, right
For
away.
survival.
Yeah, initially. And also, I think that it would just have to be defaulted there because she got Elsa's DNA initially. So I think that
Mm. True.
I think that they're, yeah, like it had to default to female first because we don't know if all of the other ones were also female. I mean, if you consider like the mitochondrial Eve aspect of it, you know what I mean? Like women are for sure like a better indicator of their species to a particular degree than a male ever is. You know what I mean? We're just about transmitting new information so the female can reprocess it. You know what I mean? And send out a newer version later on. But the repository, for the most part, again, dumb guy talking here, but the repository is in the egg, really, in terms of like the mitochondrial Eve and like the evolutionary history. You know, like we don't come from males, we come from females, and then probably a hermaphroditic aspect of like one female maybe grew too large of a clitoris or whatever, like a hyena situation. Like we don't know like the deviations in that way. At least I don't, right? But um yeah, I could imagine that that's probably one of the reasons why it started off in that way.
I wonder if that's a stress response too, because she was female during the time that it most behooved her survival to be female. And when her being female started to become more of a safety risk or a survival risk, because she had just had like her tail amputated.
Yeah, it's tough to say.
transition to male? Because
Again, it's like
ideally,
we don't have a roadmap as to what makes this creature tick, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, is it a situation where every time it's in heat, you're and it goes through copulation and it succeeds, right? And it's like, okay, I got what I needed. I'm gonna flip the script again, or it's like, or is the maleness its final form? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
Mhm.
like you only need to be female once. You know what I mean? Like, take in DNA from something else. You know what I mean? And then from then just ejaculate essentially, like just as much as you can and try to see if you can splice with something else organically or whatever, right? I mean,
Mhm.
like just so
Oh, that's interesting. And it's probably got like 6 different options too. It can go try out. So
it can go into the water, it can fly out,
No,
it
you have
can
to
go into
omit the
water,
plant.
it can go into it can fly, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it can
It sounded a lot like a dolphin too. So maybe,
Ugh.
yeah, who the
maybe.
fuck knows? Yeah, and those guys are rape kings. I mean,
Yeah,
like
man.
Kings.
They have big orgies out there in the ocean. You never
mhm.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's another. I believe there's another creature that kills its infants sometimes, or like males kill like the calves of other, you know what I mean, of other males that aren't theirs. Like they have no special connectivity in that way. When one of them is an adult and the other one is a child,
Mhm.
you know, like the dolphin doesn't see the future of its species in that baby. You know what I mean? Like
Or it does as
oh,
competition,
possibly.
or
Yeah,
genes that
yeah.
aren't
That's very,
his,
very true
or
because I mean, if we're gonna want to talk about morality, right? Like it's very difficult to want to get into that considering like the fact that we're kind of in animalistic territory to a particular degree, you
well,
know,
we are, yeah.
because it's like what kind of ethics can you bound the creature upon? You know what I mean? It's like even if it is human inside of there, you know what I mean? It's like how much leeway do you give it, you know what I mean, and then you recontextualize upon a human who is essentially just an uncultured animal at all given times, you know.
I think what you really have to do is find a special zoo somewhere in
Yeah.
Canada where they take all kinds.
Oh my
But
gosh, but you would never
It's
be able
not
to
a
keep that
secure
thing contained.
habitat.
yeah,
Yeah.
you get a big iron bird
Not in your
cage
10
type
by
thing.
5 pen.
Mhm.
No, yeah, I mean it's gonna need more than a beach ball to
Yeah,
But
keep
maybe it
itself.
likes a beach ball.
It probably would,
it
right?
probably would. Yeah.
It just cracks me up that every habitat he's found in Tusk provides him a beach ball, but he's never expressed any interest in a beach ball. They're just like,
It's
he'll like a
intuitive.
beach ball.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh man. No, it's a good tie back. It's a good callback for sure.
Yeah, I mean we're
Because I mean,
working
what else could
on.
they have possibly fucking done? You know what I mean? It's like at the end of the day, the the future only looks grim, right? Because they get caught, go to prison. All right, they get caught, they don't go to prison, but now are beholden to this company, like she is now. You know what I mean?
yep.
They don't get caught. The creature gets away. You know what I mean? And now you've essentially created this like fucking what's the word? What
Incubus?
no, well yeah, sure, but it's like this rural myth. What are those called? Like the
Oh, like is it like a generic version for what a rural myth is? Or are you thinking of something specific?
no, like the generic version of what a rural myth is. I mean, like I know like the words that I'm using are like synonymous with what I want to say, but like
Yeah.
you know, like a Bigfoot or you know
Yeah.
Yeah.
like that kind of like they've essentially just created something that's like people in a small town are gonna get attacked by this fucking creature and like it
Mhm.
didn't look like a leopard and it didn't like and then it flew away and then they're like okay sir okay
Look like a spider.
God damn it. A
Oh.
And
brown
nobody will
recluse.
ever believe them.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody yeah
Yeah.
exactly like there's no means of being able to contain that you know.
No. No,
Mhm.
I mean,
and what if it manages to be able to have the kind of like sexual reproductive
oh, that's a
leniency
whole other can
where
of
it starts
worms.
fucking bears, you know what I mean? Or like
Or more
cougars
people.
or yeah, or other people, yeah, or it just starts
Or
impregnating
dolphins.
people.
Yeah, what is it? Like a mule and a horse?
No, it's
can
a
have-
horse and a donkey make a mule.
A horse and a donkey make a mule. What if this thing starts making like man bear
Chimeras.
pigs and yeah,
That's what they're called,
exactly.
right?
Man bear
chimeras.
pigs.
Chimeras, yeah.
Yeah, like a
Ugh.
liger, but with a
Yeah, totally real risk.
Yeah, liger, yeah. Not a good example. Sorry, go ahead.
That's it. I was just gonna say totally real risk because it is a DNA compilation of like 6 different species.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
Like you were. Oh, I was gonna like this is almost a really good tie into the Evil Dead comment because maybe it does go out and fuck a tree and then that tree.
who knows? Yeah. I mean, I did make the little joke that if I'm just gonna sprout out of the ground and just be a giant tree now, you know what I mean? Like,
God damn it.
it really could have gone in so many different ways. I wouldn't have been mad in any direction. It would have just, I mean, like, everything, like, when you start playing with DNA and shit like that, at least when it comes to, the fantastical aspects of creating a movie, I feel that it does provide a lot more leeway to the degree of almost fucking magic,
Yeah.
because the layman individual doesn't know enough about DNA to check you. All right. And the context of the fact that, I mean, just the magicalness of our own world in the sense that we're all cousins to a degree, right? And only slight deviations in DNA make our morphology and our capabilities and feats be what it is right now. That it isn't difficult at all to consider, you know what I mean, a morphing of these things. So it's just like the necessity to for like suspension of disbelief is just that much easier, I feel, with this kind of
Yeah.
with this type of genre. And I believe that it'll only get easier the more we learn, you know what I mean, in terms of like the closer we blur the line between the science and the magical aspect of it, because at the end of the day, just because you can use magic in a practical fashion doesn't make it any less magical, right? I mean, like, yeah. Like people in the Elder Scrolls, you know what I mean? Even if they have schools, you know what I mean, and full like laboratories, in the development of magic, they still call it magic because I mean, like it's still fucking what it is, even if they know, X leads to B, you know what I mean, leads to C kind of situation with what they're doing. And it's the same thing here, just they're essentially trying to do like some weird like conjuration spell essentially with this creature. And yeah, like trying to splice whatever animus they can from oblivion and just contain it and then have it express itself, what I mean, in Mundus or whatever.
Jesus Christ, all the Elder Scrolls drops.
It's a lot.
Sick reference.
I mean, yeah, it's just such a great parallel because again, it's like even though it's sci-fi, right? It's like this subgenre is just opens itself, in my personal opinion, so much to more magicalness, right? Like the ability to make a fucking winged creature with the ability to both seduce men and like swim and fly and fucking do whatever it needs to do essentially, right? Like, and
Yeah.
it never and unlike a lot of things, it doesn't feel as though it's ham-fisted in that way because of the fact that we don't know again the roadmap of this creature's life. Like it can really do whatever, you know what I mean? Like, and it could always only be pleasantly surprising in that way, you know.
Pleasantly.
Yeah, so yeah, from the viewer's perspective, right?
Right.
Because
A happy accident.
yeah, exactly. Because like you said, like we can't see the foreshadows coming, right? Because I mean, they could have easily used the whole consideration of the hermaphroditic aspect of the first ones as, as a fake out to a degree. It's like they didn't have to use it, but at the same time they did. And I mean, it tied the movie a little more together, but they didn't have to. And I think that the genre is a thing that allows them to be able to play with it that way. It's cool stuff.
Hmm.
So in terms of a rating, I would say, and especially in comparison to the other two movies, this one is probably a 4 out of 5. In compare, especially if we're containing it to the other two movies.
The poetry movies. The poetry trilogy.
Yeah, the poetry trilogy. Yep.
I do think it's important to rate it generally as a movie.
Oh,
so
and
we have an
generally as a
objective
movie too,
base.
then I would give the general movie like a 3.5. Yeah.
We finally toppled the over half with Jose with body horror.
Well, he was gonna give it a 4.
Well,
He did give it a 4.
I gave it an
in its
insulated
category.
4 to the 3 things that I've seen. You know
Mm.
what I mean? But as a general movie, I'd say 3.5. Again, it would have been a 4 for me in general if it wouldn't have been for the hamminess of what I was talking about before with her injecting herself and then the only ever using her mother's and her mother's family sides like
Mhm.
pathologies or like psychologies only when convenient. Really, it feels like, you know what I mean, or to
Story glue.
yeah, exactly. It's like that, that crinked it a little bit for me, but I had a good time the entire way through. I didn't like Hannah brought up two really good foreshadows that I mean, like I understood the first one, but I didn't read it as a foreshadow because I was
Mm.
like, okay, they've just opened another avenue for the movie to go into.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It isn't like, oh, we're locked in here and let me watch out on the horizon for when that curve really comes in. You know what I mean? Like, because I mean, they gave no reason to think that the male worm things that Ginger and Fred were, you know what I mean, were dangerous in any way. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
because they made the male one first, right? And
Female first.
oh, they made Ginger first. That's right. That's right. Oh, that really does change things. In terms of my way of thinking, because it's like I wonder if even in that laboratory setting, you know what I mean, in if making the male one first would have had ramifications in like maybe the male gets like more sexually frustrated quicker. You know what I mean? And like
More violent.
yeah, starts lashing out faster. But like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to like maybe a female is perhaps just more waiting for a male to do the whole like like moving thing, because it's like while the male is like seeking, you know what I mean, like the female to do that with.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What's your rating, Matt?
Yeah. Um as far as the movie goes, if I insulated in the canon of every other movie I've seen, fantastic special effects, really cool story, super disgusting and uncomfortable to watch. Probably 4 stars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty good horror. It hits really close to home, like you were saying, Jose, when it comes to like the magical aspects of a horror movie. This one, unlike the other two, where we could pick apart like holes pretty easily, like having a clean room and the fly and how ridiculous every aspect of Tusk is. This one is like the closest to like actual reality. So I really like that. Like sci-fi horror is always my favorite genre of horror. As much as I didn't want to watch this movie again because of how gross like it is, I really enjoy it. Solid 4.
That's good stuff.
How about you?
I just have to call out one more thing I heard. I heard Jose say that he enjoyed this movie all the way through. And I just wanted
Ooh.
to say that that is a first that I have heard for this movie in particular, is that someone had a good time from beginning to end.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't have any oppressiveness to the grossness. Like it happened, we were there for it. You have to live with it. You know what I mean? But
Is rape not oppressively gross?
yeah, but it wasn't like as though the movie like ended with her rape. You know what I mean? Like there were more scenes after that. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
movie, the movie crescendoed, if I'm using that properly. You know what I mean? Or like went into like
Yeah, climax.
yeah,
You can
yeah, yeah.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
I mean, don't blame me. The creature did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't.
Oh yeah, because I mean, like if it would have ended with her like out in the forest, maybe I would have, been like, oh shit, like that was kind of harrowing. But even then, it would have been cool. You know what I mean? But like it lets you kind of sit with her decisions and be like, oh, this
Yeah.
lady is crazy. You know what I mean? Like, why the
Yep.
fuck is she? You know?
No, I will have the child.
I want it.
Mhm. Yeah. If anything, at this point, she's got spores in her brain. You know what I mean? Who the fuck knows what
No
the fuck?
shit.
Yeah.
She
No
is
shit.
Dren now.
Yeah. Who the
Yeah.
fuck knows? Yeah. I mean, who knows what the creature can do, right? Like maybe for all we know, it can slowly like change you to like be it. You know what I mean? And that's what it means to reproduce for it. You know what I mean? Like as a creature that is one of its kind, right? The only means of being is cloning, essentially. So it's like, who knows, right? Again, so fun being able to just have such a wide field of
How
good and potential follow-ups. Again, Splice 2, too splicey.
Too splicey. Too likey.
How convenient that they gave Dren a name that is they can apply to either genders
Mhm.
comfortably.
Yeah, that worked pretty well.
Yeah.
Nice
Yeah, smooth. We didn't call her Margaret.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lucy.
Yeah. Oh shit. We really fucked up.
Yeah, rest in peace to that cat though. It was sad.
Yeah, it was a cute cat.
Yeah, nice cat.
Yeah, but I think with that, Hannah closes off.
Oh, you didn't give me an opportunity to rate it myself.
Oh, I thought you gave it a rating. My
No,
bad.
I
I'm so
deferred
sorry.
it.
Blah 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 blah.
No, and I will close it out after that. But I think for me, and this is weird because I picked this movie, but the main motivation for me with picking this movie was to pick a body horror that I thought Jose would be closer to liking. For me, I think this movie is a 3. And my
Oof.
reasoning, well, it's still, it's still the greater half. My reasoning for that is partly because of, like we talked about, the ham-fistedness with Elsa's backstory. I think that they just kind of tossed that in where convenient so they'd have a place to keep Dren, and so that we'd have, a reason that Elsa is such a difficult to relate to character. But the other reason for me for this movie being on the lower side, it is entertaining and it's unforgettable, and that's what gets it the 3. But I think this movie's too complex, honestly. I like it when a movie delivers strong on one thing. I think speeding up Dren's life and making her go through more things in a shorter period of time is just like, to me it feels like a method of putting as many things in front of us as they can to catch more audience. And that's just kind of how it strikes me.
And that fits perfectly in the sense that we saw Mothman, Creature of the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
So many Jeepers Creepers. You know what I mean? Like there's so
Yep.
many other like little inspiration like tidbits in there, you know what I mean? Putting it in like being put in at the same time. That it really does, like if you have any even like myself, like a very rudimentary understanding of like horror, I mean you still understand the archetypes that they're like pulling, you know what I mean, like out of their bag
Referencing.
essentially. You know?
Yep.
Yeah, I totally get that.
And I think it makes it harder to have a right out of the gate impression of the movie because you've just been through so much. Like introducing this movie and then being like, Jose, what are your first thoughts 5 minutes after watching this entire movie? That must be a very
Which
difficult
ones?
question.
Yeah. I have at least 30.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I like some, I would say, phases of this movie and not as much others.
Yeah.
So,
That's a very fair point. You know, now that you're saying that, in that like they really tried to shorthand the odyssey of like Dren's life, I feel like this concept would have been much better in like a mini series, like a quick 6
Yeah.
episode situation, you know, where like they have 40 minutes every time to be able to really expound upon every single aspect that they're trying to go for. A whole episode with a whole episode in every scenario, you know, and then a genuine ability to be able to finish up a close off, you know what I mean, in terms of like an epilogue-ish, you know what I mean, that is more satisfying, I guess. Just
Yeah,
more
because-
weight to it.
with each phase of her life, because she kind of, levels up in size and maturity 4 times.
it'd be
or
perfect
something
for an
like that.
episodic situation. Every
Yeah.
day you see it, like that's the thing about the episode, right? Yeah.
There's so much that goes into that. You have so much room to build out that story and build out the feelings that go along with her growth and things like that. And I just feel like they weren't able to hit on that because they crammed this into a movie.
I can even picture like the Hulu, like you know how they have like the little like stills for each one. Like you could even have it be like a situation where the first one is like the picture of each one. Like, well, the first one's like the creature, like where it's like the face hugger looking one, then the next one's the rabbit, then the next one's like the girl,
Yeah.
and then like and then slowly but surely you see all of them. But then the last one is unrevealed because they want to obviously keep the whole like, you know, hermaphroditic change, you know. Hey, what are you doing? Their dog thinks my ideas are too good. It's trying to stop me. Yeah,
Okay.
my ideas are too good.
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah, and this is a Canadian film.
The family dog has decided that we have just been yapping too long.
Like,
So
yeah.
at that, I will go ahead and wish everybody a good night.
Yep. Take care, everybody.
Good night, folks. See you next time.